Howdy peeps, excuse me, and welcome back to the channel. Today a hopefully quick inbox review of the Hobbyboss ME262 nightfighter. Not the newest of kits. I know there are several variants and it's been around a little while, but it's one of the best 48th ME262 kits on the market apparently. I know people who have built them and they've gone together really well and they look really good when they're done. So I think this is a 2015 boxing. Usual pretty artwork. Bit of bump on that side about the ME262. And a scheme. I think there are two in the kit, but they're basically the same. The kit number is 80379, and the other scheme, as I said, they're the same scheme, just different planes, as it were. Now, I did try and review this yesterday. I did. When I went back to watch it, I realised I'd forgotten to zoom out and did a load of stuff completely out of camera shot. So, second attempt. Does at least mean all the bags have been opened and all the stuff's been taken out of them. So as I rummage around in the box to get to the first sprue, I will tell you about the latest thing on my advertising hoarding, Models for Heroes, a UK based charity to help current and former servicemen and women injured either in combat or suffering from psychological problems. They're on all the different forms of social media, so if you want to know more you can check them out. They take donations of money, kits, paints, all the various sundries, anything like that. It's all good, all helps and all goes to a good cause. So we've got that. Don't forget them, very good place to help out. As we all know, modelling does help with all manner of psychological issues, even for those of us who haven't got things like that. Anyway, the first sprue we find in the box, which is probably not in the right order now, but there we go, has the two fuselage halves, cockpit tub, some bulkheads, the radar array, a seat and a few other bits and pieces. And I do have to say, everything looks cleanly moulded apart from the radar pieces. They do have a lot of, or quite a bit of flash on them. The fuselage halves themselves, crisp, delicate panel lines and rivets. The rest of the bits all look pretty good too. So let's zoom you in a little. I think I'll remember which way round this is now. There we go. Or maybe a bit more. That will do. And we'll give you a tour of the sprue. We'll go with that fuselage half, they're the same anyway. As you can see, the panel lines with the rivets either side, looking very nice. And various other parts. We have some cockpit sidewall details here, and I'm assuming various other greeblies that live in or go around behind the cockpit, radio gear, etc. We have the other fuselage half, screech, I'll lift it a little, and as you can see, same levels of detail on there. And the bottom of the cockpit sub, but I will just show you the radar array for the nose because that will take some clean up. As you can see, it's quite flashy. Not entirely sure why when the rest of the sprue seems so clean, but never mind. A little bit of work cleaning that up won't be too much of an issue. And on the reverse side, we have, whether it's correct or full, I'm not entirely sure, we've got a ribbing structure running throughout the entirety of the fuselage halves. More detail on other parts. It doesn't appear to be any ejector pins in silly places. The base of the cockpit floor, or base of the cockpit, looking good. Plenty to go in there. It's going to be a fairly busy little office. As we can see, the other fuselage half also fully ribbed and with a little window in the back of it. The next sprue we have contains the parts for, I believe, well, the nose and some of the parts of the gun bays. As you can see, the upper and possibly lower, or two different variants, I'm not entirely sure. The main gun bay part, a couple of bulkheads, a nose cone and a few other little pieces on there. And if we flip it over, again some nice clear and crisp detail on the other side of the bulkheads, and the ejector pins aren't in silly places either. As we can see, no or minimal flash on that too. Next one is a piddly little sprue with 4 parts on it. Oh, bash the camera. These are basically the rocket rails for under the wings, and again, nicely detailed, crisp, clean. Should do the job. They're going to be barely visible anyway, but you know. Next we have another couple of plastic bags because, as I said, and sprue M, we have more of the nose parts, the cowling and the front wheel well. And again, fairly clear of ejector pin marks. There are ones on the inside of those, but you're probably not going to be posing those open. And a little extra detail on the inside of the nose bay. However, we're not going to be using that because the kit comes with a white metal one. Now I'm guessing that's mainly just to be a nose weight, to save you having to put extra in there. I probably will add a little extra weight just in case. So it's got the same sort of similar levels of detail, so it's a nice addition. You don't find it in many kits. Well, I think the only kits I've found that had a nose weight already in the kit were just the 1/100th Tamiya kits. Next up we have the engine sprue. 2 identical engines, well, a left and a right obviously, but as you can see, again, no flash, clean, crisp moulding. Little are they compressors? I guess they're compressor fans. Again, not, you know, PE or resin levels of detail, but for what, I mean, let's remember here is a £15 kit. It's not too shabby at all. And the other engine halves, or nacelle engines, pass. The engine would be inside the nacelle. Confusing myself here, never mind, it's fairly early. Next we have the drop tanks, and again nicely detailed, crisp, clean. The tanks themselves and the pylons, both 2-piece. 2-piece pylons, you may have a little gap to fill front and back, but top and bottom aren't going to be visible. And again, sensible ejector placement and good mounting points as well, so hopefully ensure they match up. Next we have the guns. I'm just going to check, have I, yes, I've done my usual thing of put the instructions in a silly place, but right now I can't get to them. So if I leave you to look at those for a moment, I'll drag the instructions back out so I can show them in a mo and pop them over there out of the way. So the guns, they're 2-piece guns. They're not slide moulded barrels. We also have the nose bay door and a little pipe thing, but they're nicely detailed. There's enough there, so if you wanted to build it with the nose bay open, you could show off the guns and they wouldn't look bad, providing you sorted out any seamline issues you may have with them being 2-part. And I've certainly seen far worse MGs in a plain kit. Airfix, I'm looking at you. And the next large sprue, which I will take you on a tour of. Start out with the nose wheel. I don't know whether it has 2 nose wheels or 2 different types. I think one's an option. One's got tread, one hasn't, so that would be my guess. We have the rudder. Again, same levels of detail as the rest of the fuselage and the rest of the kit, I have to say, in general. Main gear bay door, parts of the actual gear bay internal structure and undercarriage. Bring it back up here, we've got the main wheels. Again, very nicely detailed, especially for styrene. The tread pattern is a bit soft, but you know, again, resin is easily available if you wanted to do that. We have more of the gear bay doors and internal gear bay assembly. We'll have a look at the back of those in a bit to see if there's any ejector pins. And most of the rest of the sprue is little greebly bits, which I'm guessing majority of go inside the cockpit. Various radios or switch gears. We have the seat. I don't think there are any belts included in this kit. I've not seen any. And maybe some on a decal sheet, but I might just stick a pair of, no, it'd be 2 pairs of Tamiya or Izu tape ones in. Just make some up myself with a bit of fuse wire. Control columns, landing gear, and the instrument panel, which I will flip around just the right way up and lift up a little so we can see it hopefully a bit better. Where is it? Where is it? I lost it. There we go. The kit does come with a decal, but as usual I'll just paint it. It'll probably look... it might look better, it might look worse, but at least I know I tried to paint it. And we have a couple of the cockpit side control consoles as well, and a little close up on those rear main gear wheels, because they do look quite nice. I wouldn't have said, I mean, other than the tread pattern, I wouldn't have said they needed upgrading. And let's be honest, who spends too much time looking at the tread pattern on a plane? There are far more interesting parts of it to look at. Oh, just elbowing a king target out of the way there. I'll zoom you back out again for this because it's quite a lot. Oh, back in a bit more, back in a bit more. Don't show the carnage. It's the main wing sprue. Try and get it all in shot. As you can see, wobbling about still on the camera. 1-piece lower wings, single-piece upper wings, and the horizontal stabs. And again, beautifully detailed, riveted panel line. Whether they're accurate, I don't know, but they look good, and to me that's probably more important. As you can see on the horizontal stabs, we've got 1 tab on that one, 2 tabs on that one, so they should lock together, give a nice secure mount as well. I will just zoom you in a little more to show you some of the detail, just to make sure we get an idea of how it looks. So as you can see, especially in the centre part of the lower wing section, all the rivets and fasteners and panel lines, and it's continued across the entire wings. There's no visible softening towards the edges or anything nasty. I think a couple of sink marks towards the, if I can catch them in the light so you can see, there we go. A couple of sink marks there, which correspond to detail on the underside, which will be the gear bays. This is one of those things that does tend to happen, unfortunately. Should be easy to sort out with a scrape of filler. So see, none of the injector pin marks are in silly places on the wing or on the lower wing. There's nothing that's going to be visible once assembled. And I will leave you zoomed in for the clear parts. I have repacked these, obviously. As usual with Trumpeter and Hobbyboss, they come in a bag separately, wrapped in the foam. And as I say, they may not be completely crystal clear. There's a couple of light minor scuffs, which are probably just fingerprints from me. And some nice riveting detail around the edges. The framework is nicely raised. To be honest, it's probably a bit too high, but makes it a lot easier to mask when you've got a nice strong sharp edge to mask up to. Easier to cut the masking tape. And so optically, yes, there is a little distortion in them, but it's one of those things that is going to happen at this scale especially. And this kit can be posed with the canopy open, so it's not too big of an issue. I'll pop that back in. So back in the bag and wrapped up to protect it, just to make sure nothing bad happens. Well, not until I cut them off the sprue at least, anyway. And we have what I'm assuming is a gun sight of some description, or head, well, not head up, but, and the windscreen, which is nice to see. It's got plenty surrounding it, so if it doesn't quite fit, you can still fill or sand without having to, you know, sand the glass itself. That's always a nice thing to have, plenty of extra around the windscreen, especially to get it to fit nicely. Bit of wiggle room there in case something's gone wrong. And that is all the plastic. As I was saying, it's a £15 kit, so it doesn't have any etch in it. Or at least this one doesn't. I don't know about other variants. It just leaves the decals, which are your typical fare for a Trumpeter or Hobbyboss. They're not the greatest in the world. You know, they're kit decals, so they'll do the job. Might not look the greatest, might be a bit fragile. So we've got the swastikas, or is it Hakenkreuz, in two halves. Obviously for legal reasons, so they can sell the kit in Germany and any other countries where that particular emblem is illegal. And we have the various instrument panel and side console details as well. They're relatively thin. There's not a lot of carrier film on them, I have to say. They are shiny, but that's kind of what happens. But as you can see on the big Balkenkreuz, the black and the clear one, you can see where the, if I just move it about a little, There we go. You can see where the wax paper has either transferred or interacted or reacted somehow with the decal itself. Once you've got a clear coat, weathered, flat coat, everything, that doesn't show up, but it can be a little worrying until it disappears. So, not the greatest, but certainly not the world's worst decals. And we have our colour call out, and I will zoom you out again now. About there will do. For Germany, 10th Nachtjäger, 11 Commando Welter, 12. I have no idea what any of that means. What I know what Nachtjäger is night fighter or night hunter. It's a two-tone light blue, dark green mottle on the top, black underneath, and the only real difference between the two schemes is, I believe, just this one is number 11, Pilot Lieutenant Herbert Altner. But again, it's nice to have a good clear colour scheme, as it were, rather than black and white or 3 shades of blue. Colour callouts are Mr. Hobby Vallejo, Model Master Tamiya and Humbrol, although RLM02, RLM75, black and silver aren't really tricky ones to get. Ooh, no, sorry, this one has the darker grey modelling, whereas this one is the green mottle. But overall, nothing too different or dissimilar there. And I'll quickly trundle through the destructions. It's, again, typical Hobbyboss trumpet affair. If you've built one of their kits before, pretty much, if you've built a kit, you don't bother reading any of that, and except for maybe the legend of what the various things mean. But they're usually fairly obvious. We have a sprue map, not numbered, but hey ho. It does tell us at the bottom which are the unused parts. So if you wanted to chop them all off and get rid of them to start with, or in case you get to the end you got them left over and you're worried. Yeah. Usual way of building up a plane, we start with the cockpit, which in this case does look to have quite a lot of parts to it and pretty detailed. Onto the gun bay and the front gear. And that all goes in with the rest of the equipment inside the fuselage. I would probably leave the nose wheel off, to be fair, the nose gear. I wouldn't put that in this early in the build. And the engines go together with the centre gear bay into the wings. Glue the wings on. The nose and the top parts and radar mounts and all the various other bits. Ooh, I'm getting tangled up on a pile of crud on my bench. Stabs, rudder, cockpit, canopy, engines, radar going on in that step. And we have undercarriage, landing gear, whatever you want to call it. There is a correct term, but I can never remember. And rockets and fuel tanks going on, with no sit back and admire it picture. So that is what we get in the box for the Hobbyboss ME262 Nightfighter variant. I'm sure you'll agree the plastic looks promising, at least, and the reports I've heard are it goes together very nicely as well, which is always a good sign. And these are reports from people I know, people who have actually built it, and I've actually seen them build it. So, get it straight. Zoom you back out again to get the whole box in. There we go. A little bit professional maybe. So if you were looking at getting an ME262, put the Hobbyboss on your list of ones to look at, because it does look a damn fine kit. Would benefit from a set of seat belts in there, either etch or fabric or paper, whichever ones, or as I said, masking tape and fuse wire. But yeah, as I say, for the price, and it's a fairly recent kit, it's not one that's donkey's years old. Does look to be a very good, very interesting kit to build. So, with all that being said, so if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give us a thumbs down. But tell us why you didn't like it. If you want to see more kit reviews, how I do's, and I'm currently running a build series on a little Russian tank destroyer, subscribe down below and click the little belly thing and you'll get a notification email every time I upload something. So and I think we'll call it for there. For me, that's a pretty short video review. So have fun, enjoy your modelling, rock on, peace out, bye bye.